The number one mistake that most people make when they're trying to come up with a storyline, like a core sales story for their product or their service, is that they're not being specific enough. They think they're being specific, but they're not actually being specific enough. And I want to give you an example. So, say this is a company, an e commerce company, and they're starting to get into the coffee business and selling coffee online because I love coffee myself. So, I used it as an example. And this company, for instance, went ahead, and I'm looking at my notes right now, and just kind of did very generic sales messages a little bit that you've probably seen like before on other like coffee selling companies or bean brew selling companies sites. For instance, like, are you tired of settling for mediocre brews that leave you yearning for more in the mornings? We are introducing this new product, the epitome of coffee perfection and grafted from the finest Arabica beans, sourced from exotic locals, etc., right? So what most businesses or companies do is they think they're being specific because their focus is on the features, right? So when it comes to listing the features, most businesses are amazing at that, right? They list all kinds of features of like their product, and they think that sort of this is what they need to be specific about. However, it's usually not. Like, your angle needs to be actually different because your customer and your client, they want to be emotionally hooked. And just listing sort of all of the features for a coffee, of course, like, there's a certain percentage of customers, usually like really small, like maybe 10-15%, that know so much about coffee. They really want to know, where it's come from, which is the bean mix that you're using, how you're roasting it, and so on, etc. But then the majority of other buyers, like customers, they are going to want to be hooked by your brand and through a story. And how you can do this is, for instance, you can create an archetype, right? And kind of tie it into your branding. So for instance, now meet Sarah, right? Like, so Sarah, like, she's a young professional with a demanding job and an insatiable love for coffee. And every morning she gets out of her Passerini bed, her feet fall onto her nice soft brown rug, and she walks over and she starts brewing herself or making herself a cup of like just Americano in her DeLonghi coffee machine, but it's just not hitting the right notes. It tastes really burnt. And she overall just looks for a smoother mix that is going to prepare her and set the day for making it for all of her hectic executive meetings and so on, right? So obviously you can go even way more into detail in that, especially when you're writing the story of it. And you saw also, did you listen how I give some specifics in terms of, I mentioned, for instance, the coffee machine. I mentioned the bed that she gets out of, like the kind of brand. Because for instance, if they're targeting like a high-end customer service base and the coffee is more expensive that they're selling, so who are they selling it for, right? The customer. And tying it into really like the overall sales story and making sure that those specific really hit the right nail on the head, so that their customers and their clients, when they're reading it, they're like, oh my gosh, they're really thinking, oh my gosh, you're getting me, like this is me, oh my gosh, I have a DeLonghi here in my kitchen, can you believe it, and so on, right? So this is where we're talking about a sales story, and that's really important that like every brand nowadays have it, because without it, you're not like setting yourself apart or from your competition. You're not really doing your product a favor. So anyways, if you need help with that, then check out funnelgal.com. You can hop on the free discovery call with me, a short one, to see if we're the right fit for each other. And my team and I would love to help you with your brand story and setting you up for really like exploding your sales.